Something that always festered in my mind about the design in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the variety, or lack thereof in some cases. A lot of people will make the claim that it's gotten too formulaic, that it's either waifus, twinks, robots, etc. So I thought for a subscriber milestone, I want to challenge the actual root of the issue. I decided to compile the representation for every type, attribute, and subtype in the game into a single thread on Twitter to highlight design spaces that have gone underexplored. I want this video and thread to serve as a way for discussion to spread about these cards that Konami should be giving more experimentation. I originally wanted to make this a stream because that'd be more conducive to a discussion, but I don't think there'd be a turnout that makes it one, and my internet would probably make it unwatchable anyway. So, here we are. I don't want to ramble about every single detail in the thread in this video because I'm lazy, and I already don't want to edit this scripted video much, so I'm just going to talk about the design spaces I personally want to see explored. We have a lot of types being weighted way more towards specific attributes, stuff like Aqua, Sea Serpent, and Fish being almost entirely water, along with Pyro almost being all fire. These are self-explanatory why they're the case, but still highlights a compliance with norms and lacking variety or experimentation. I mean, it only took like 4 Dark Aquas to make the strongest deck in the game. Imagine how good the Water Pyro deck could be. Beyond types lacking diversity, we have 4 different monster types that got added throughout the game's lifespan, some of them lacking in representation in general, despite being a decade old, whereas one of them may have been given a little preferential treatment. Maybe just a little. Illusion makes sense because it only just came out, but I hope Konami actually does more with the type sooner rather than later. Pendulum would be a natural fit for Illusions, but given Konami's track record on creating new Pend archetypes, wouldn't count on it. Despite Psychic having a decent count, it also feels underrepresented given it's the oldest new edition. Psychic and Illusion have these clear themes tied to their typings. Psychic paying life points for the price of knowledge, Illusions not being able to destroy or be destroyed in battle because while they aren't real, the damage they inflict is. Of course, not every single card in those types do those because the type would just be a giant archetype at that point, but it does bring up the question of how can these mechanics be used to fulfill a variety of different gameplay styles. When it comes to typings, there's also the matter of tri-typings and duo-typings. Tri-Brigade and Ragnarika pioneered this as a future concept to explore. Whether these are used as band-aid solutions for underrepresented types, we'll have to see. I feel like the Creatures of the Sea are a pretty self-explanatory future trio typing. Zombie Rock and Dino, I can see being a tri-type in the future because fossils. We already have the Fossil Warriors, which are rocks. They can design a Tri-Brigade-like archetype where it has dinos. The dinos die and become fossils, being rocks. The rocks are then brought back to life, but in a more zombie-like state than anticipated. That's my thought process, at least. Then we have Fiend Warrior and Fairy, which is Demon, Human, and Angel. Although it might be more apt for Spellcaster to fulfill the role of human, given Valmonica, but that's where we talk about duo typing. Fiend and Fairy are obvious. Spellcaster and Illusion have already been set up with White Woods, as well as the fact Nightmare Magician and the other card I don't remember are counterparts to the Dark Magicians. Dragon and Worm, I mean, Worm is sort of Dragon 2, but Konami doesn't want them to have access to generic Dragon support. Worm, despite being Dragon 2, hasn't really been explored. It had Yangxing, I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, I'm sorry, and nothing else for the longest time, and only recently have we seen Tenyi and Sword Soul. Thunder and Pyro, I don't actually see these being a pair, they were just kind of the leftovers. With Synchros and XYZ, all I want to really highlight is the level and rank pools. Lower level Synchros being an underexplored aspect of the game. They can be tricky to make generically, but it's weird that it hasn't been used to the design advantage of an archetype that makes them. Like, Sprite can make level 4 Synchros, but it's not really worth the resources with the 2-lock as a factor, and I don't see them designing Sprite support that cuts their levels in half for a Synchro 2. XYZs have a very blatant weight towards rank 4s. High ranks are another thing that isn't very explored either, but high-level monsters that can make them aren't exactly either. Now, the last and most important part to me, Pendulum. Pend as a whole is underrepresented, likely due to its reputation not really inspiring Konami to try and explore it regularly. The most important thing to discuss though is scales. 70 scale 1s in the game and 46 scale 8s. The rank 4 of Pend scales. Despite scales higher than 8 not posing an actual threat to game balance, Konami continues to make sure they print them with restrictions, locking into archetype or attribute with the latest Melodious scales. It's just another limiting design aspect. There are a swath of level 8 pendulums, as well as all the extra deck pendulums that just can't be pendulum summoned because we're too afraid to go higher than 8 for scales. Oh yeah, since Rec 13s exist, that means hypothetically we could see a 14 scale. Let me know in the comments or in the actual thread linked in the description what you think is lacking and deserves to be explored and experimented with. Let's push discussion about this.